Welcome friends, LostScarf here, and it's time for the vlog. No opener this time, and everything's gonna look haphazard and crazy, because why not? It is quarantine, everybody! Alright, so, 10-minute vlog. I'm sure everyone's losing their minds right now. I just keep looking in the mirror like, have I lost definition yet? And to an extent I have. Like, I haven't worked out in 2 weeks, for sure. But this still looks pretty nice, right? This looks like quite the ham hock right there. I'm happy about that. But I can feel it's getting less hard. Like, this is getting less hard right here. Yeah, I'm showing off because I can. That's what I'm doing right now. Some of us need some catharsis right now. Now, a quick thing about catharsis, and maybe that's the wrong word. Or maybe it's the right word. Maybe. So, catharsis, the way I always see catharsis is... well, catharsis is always, you do a thing to just feel better. That's what a catharsis is, right? You do a thing to feel better. But I feel like for the most part, catharsis is usually poorly done. And apparently we're going to explore a word. We're going to be a dictionary today. Catharsis. So catharsis is defined as the process of releasing and thereby providing relief from strong or repressed emotions. Purgation. So catharsis is a word I use a lot when it comes to negative things, and that usually the way we reach catharsis is by doing something very not good. But catharsis, the word itself, doesn't have that, which is just part of where we attach even more to a word, even more so than it is. Where am I going with this? So catharsis does work in that it's about strong emotion, and strongly I worry about losing what I have gained over time. Like, I worry about that. Definitely worry about losing this. Because this looks pretty cool. I like that. That looks cool. I didn't have this before. I didn't have that before. I didn't have this, like, the definition. And it's slowly going away. And so the catharsis here, by using this term, oh my god, we're really going with this, is just showing off right now. And that looks good to me. Now, there are probably some of you who work out better than I do, and you've got, like, the pop. Like, this is popped out. You don't have the fat around it. It's just all showing right there. And that's a pretty cool look. And some of you don't give a crap about any of what I just said about working out or any of that stuff, because you don't care. But for those who do care, like, it's a cool look. Now, abs I don't give a crap about. That stuff actually looks silly to me. Well, it became silly when I saw a literal washboard. Abs. There was a swimmer who I can't remember now, he was Olympian, all this stuff. Not Michael Phelps, but like before his time. And the dude had like just literal washboard. It really was. He didn't have 6-pack, he had a 12-pack. Like, his abs had abs. And it was like, holy crap. And the realization was, that's not exactly a good look. Like, it's impressive, but it's not the best looks. I've never been a fan of that. All I really want is more just flatness to this. I think I've literally got a 30-pound belly. It's probably not. It's probably like 20 pound. Or less than that, and I don't understand how fat works. But I got quite a bit of rotundness right here. Like, you can't see it. I'm not going to pull my shirt up either. But there's some girth here. There's a lot there. Definitely a lot right there. But it's also like in the thighs. And there's certainly some fatness up in here, and the double chin and all that stuff. This is not what I want to talk about at all, but this might work because what I want to talk about is probably a shorter topic. So catharsis, back to catharsis. So catharsis, the way I would see it, is usually a negative thing, because usually it's doing something that feels good, but it's actually really bad. That's the way I've always seen catharsis. And a big example of that has got to be basically just when people do cancel culture, where everyone rallies around something and they just tear into somebody because they got this holier-than-thou higher ground, and they are just extremely, extremely vicious to a person. And they'll just say, like, I hope something bad happens to your family, I hope you die, things like that. They say it with this righteous fury about someone who's just done something very wrong. And that is cathartic. It makes them feel better, but at what cost? That's the way I always see catharsis is. Catharsis usually is at what cost is how I feel about it. And it's the cost of, well, you're a piece of shit, basically, by doing that. And I try to slow down on that, because I know there's times when I have really negative feelings with usually with really bad people, or just really bad trolls. And, like, a catharsis for me, let's give a real example, is the Zoom stuff. So Zoom can easily, people can just get in there, get into people's meetings and do some really messed up stuff. One instance that happened was there was a lady telling a kid story to 40 kids. This guy gets into the meeting and he puts up graphic images and he says the N-word over and over and over again. And I would absolutely love to put my fist through his face. Real blood rage fist through his face. I would love to punch this man horribly. But that is catharsis, and that is a negative thing, because the negative parts are, well, I feel justified in doing it, of course, but the negative part is, well, you're doing violence to another person, but really, the guy shouldn't be doing that. I wish we had better safeguards and things like that, where stuff like that couldn't happen. I suppose the safeguard is maybe understanding Zoom better, but my understanding is it's kind of really hard to stop it as well. I don't know. I don't fully understand Zoom. Jinx was explaining to me, but I'm not smart enough to understand what she was explaining. But apparently, yeah, it's kind of easy to get in there and mess with meetings. And it's a very unfortunate thing where people are just being total assholes, because people will always be total assholes. And who does that crap? Who does awful things to other people? And it's usually just, well, either they have no empathy or they're just a pile of crap. And why are they a pile of crap? They're a pile of crap because, well, they're trying to get catharsis themselves. So this person is getting entertainment. They're getting catharsis from this, we'll say, the quarantine, by being a total crap person to other people. And we see that all the time. We see awful people, they just not a good place either. And so they're just spreading the hate. They're spreading the pain. And that is catharsis again. I'm just going to keep saying this word. This is my understanding of the word. So you can't really throw at me that freaking meme, which is, I don't think you know what that word means. Like, you can't throw that meme at me because I just showed you the dictionary of it. But I just always feel it as a negative thing. This is quite the Nothing Burger episode vlog. So let's talk about, real quick, so the quarantine. We're all in it. Well, not all of us. Some people aren't having it yet. Maybe your country hasn't been hit with it yet. I do have people from random countries. Oh, I have like one person from Sweden. And Sweden's doing things interesting. They're like, well, F it. We're not going to do anything. We're not closing anything. Let's see what happens. It's like, holy crap. All right. Because the game here is just trying to understand what works. Because there are a number of people who just don't get anything from it. And at this point, either my entire family has gotten it or we haven't gotten it. Because we have not shown any symptoms. And we've all been here. Well, not really. So, we still need groceries and such. So, family member goes out and gets groceries and everything. They still need exercise, so they go walk the park and stuff. There's other people at the park. There's other people breathing at the park. The fact they're not sick means that either they're asymptomatic or they just haven't caught it, thankfully. And then there's me, who goes to work. One of my coworkers, his wife's a doctor. She might get it and give it to him and so on. My boss doesn't give a crap. He's going out and doing whatever he wants. He doesn't care. He doesn't care at all. He still doesn't think it's all that important. So I might get it from him. And so, I don't know. The thing, though, is we've seen the numbers. New York has it really bad. California being twice New York's population, but being way lower. And because we did the quarantine and the self-isolation, all that stuff. And so we've thankfully been lower. But the problem is, for everything, is we don't have enough tests. We really don't. So our numbers are worse than we're projecting. So is China's, though. China's numbers are way worse than they're projecting as well, because they don't want us to know. And also because the tests are just not coming out. We're at this point now, and there should be tons of tests, and yet they're not, which shows tests take a while to make, apparently. But recent things is they're figuring out a way to make a 5-minute test, and that's interesting. The other problem is what they've statistically found is the test that they're currently using, the one that goes all the way up in there, is a 66% chance of being correct. So that's great. So you'll have people who will test, and they're negative, and then they'll come out being positive later with a second test. So that's great. The other problem is because it's an imperfect test. The test is a PCR test. So I'm going to explain PCR really quick. So PCR this was a huge thing for crime scenes. PCR is you take a little bit of DNA and you amplify it. And you amplify it exponentially. So you have one little bit, and you make more and 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 more. So you could take a drop of blood. This is why it's good for crime scenes. Take a drop of blood, get the DNA from that drop of blood, and you grow and make tons of that one DNA, that one thing of DNA. So you have a big batch of it so that you can test that big batch and for all these different tests you need to do. Because what you're doing is you're trying to match it with other things. So what's happening here with the PCR test is they're trying to find the specific RNA. It's RNA. Yeah, it's viruses. Viruses are RNA. They're trying to find the specific RNA of the virus. But the problem is being that specific, like, what's the specific, how long is the length? Because there's going to be other things that are going to match it as well, and they need to find a lot of this version, and so it gets really complicated, and I didn't explain as well as I would have liked to. There's videos on it. Just look up PCR on YouTube, and the videos will explain it where you got this little thing, and then through, I can't remember the name of the bacteria right now. I'm pretty sure it's a bacteria. Through a carrier, it will grow through heat and cold shock, when it'll double, and then double, and then double, and then double, and double. And there's pictures of it that make it really good. Like, the way I learned in college was just, I watched these videos that showed really good picture versions of it, and it really helped out to understand it. Just look up PCR, just polymerase, I can't remember the rest of the word. It's polymerase something reaction. Pretty sure the R stands for reaction. And P is polymerase, but I can't remember. Oh, polymerase chain reaction. PCR. Yeah, that's what it stands for. By the way, the guy who invented it is a crazy-ass motherfucker. He was a surfer dude. Now, this thing is, PCR is worth billions of dollars. The guy who made it got, I believe it was $30,000 or $300,000 bonus for inventing it. He got the Nobel Prize for this, by the way. But it's because he was working under a company when he came up with the PCR. And so he didn't get as much money as he obviously deserves for $1 billion thing. The company made all that money. And a real quick thing about him, which is just another topic, but not going to go too deep on it, is when you're an expert on a subject, your ego inflates to the point that you think you're an expert on everything. And that is a thing that happens in any way, shape, or form. You get a degree, you think you're smart about a bunch of things, but you're not going to be smart about everything. Like, I've got, of course, 5 degrees and 5 certificates, right? And I have knowledge in water, in biology, and animals, and all this different stuff. And at times, because I have all this knowledge, I end up bullshitting a little bit about physics or about chemistry and things like that. But the truth of the matter is, I should not be talking about those subjects, because I'm not an expert on those subjects, and yet I will. The inventor of PCR is a chemist, but he will talk about physics and biology and all this stuff with high-level authority in his voice, believing he knows damn well what he's talking about, and he has led to very bad things happening because leaders of countries believe him, and they've done really bad policy because of him. And that's not good, and this happens with a lot of just smart people. And this is also the reason why I don't like Neil deGrasse Tyson. Neil deGrasse Tyson is an astrophysicist, and he tries to be an expert on everything, and he's full of shit half the time. And the reason why is because he'll talk about a subject because he's got that voice, he's got that charisma and everything, and he'll talk about a subject, but he's half the time full of shit. He really actually is. So I'm not a big fan of him. I would have rather he did it was a Rising Tide instead, where he found experts in these different subjects and got them to explain it well and be the figures on that. Instead, he's tried to be the figurehead for all these different sciences that he's not an expert on. And you can't be. No matter how smart you want to be, we can't be that smart because it just takes laser focus to get really, really good on certain subjects. That's why I don't like Neil deGrasse Tyson. It gets a bit pompous. Also, he just buys into his bullshit too much, which is very unfortunate. Which it happens. You buy into your own bullshit. You get enough people who love you, you just buy into your own bullshit. This is what happens. Very unfortunate. So the topic I actually wanted to talk about was about actually trying to improve while in the quarantine. Or just in general, even without the quarantine. We're finding ourselves with a lot of free time right now. And I don't have any excuses. Like, I'm, worried about this. And there's not like I can't really bench, 250 right now, obviously. But I can still do, a bajillion push-ups. I can do a bunch of squats. I can do a bunch... You can do lunges. You can do... words I can't think of right now. You can plank. There's a lot of things I could do. I'm not doing any of it because the gym was my environment for it. And right now we got to make our home our gym at the moment. But there's a lot you can actually do to improve yourself. Push-ups, right now. Like I said, push-ups, squats, planks. There's things you can do with your body to improve yourself. I can't necessarily walk around, but I can still do all these different things, and yet I'm not doing them. And I'm just, the time I use at the gym, I'm not using it to do workout stuff. I'm just playing more games or reading or whatever, or honestly just sticking around on Twitter. That's really what happens. And so it's the realization of just we could do better with our time. And the bigger thing I wanted to talk about was improvement in general. And an interesting thing was something Arnold Schwarzenegger. This is his motivation back in the day. Before he became the big famous man he was, he'd work out the gym and he was a giant man. He was bigger than even when you see him in the movies, he was even bigger than that when he was being the bodybuilder for like Mr. Universe or whatever. Like he's just this giant mass of meat. That's what he was. All muscle though. And people would come and like, you're always smiling at the gym while everyone else is all serious and angry and stuff while working out. And what he said is, it's because I know where I'm gonna be. He says, every rep, every just set, everything he's doing is getting him one step closer to becoming Mr. Universe. That was his mindset. Everything he's doing is getting him one step closer to his goal. And he's going to become Mr. Universe. Wouldn't you be excited, right? Like, if you know, like the way he put it is, he knew. It's part of that self-actualization, like, believe it. But he's doing the stuff to get to what his belief is. He believed inevitably he will become Mr. Universe. That's what he believed. And so, he was happily working hard to get there. Every step of the way, he took joy in getting there because he knew where it was going to go. And I think that's a thing that happens to most of us is we get lost in the weeds because we don't really tangibly know where it's going to go or believe where it's going to go. Maybe we don't have a goal to it, or we just don't know what the goal can be, or we just don't see it that way. And I think it's something worth seeing. And so for me, seeing the definition now, like actually having some of it, it's like, okay, well, it was a lot of just mindlessly working out, and the results are slowly showing. Also, it was just, I was 33% body fat a year ago. I was 1/3 fat. My body was 1/3 fat, and now I'm at 28%. It took a year, but I'm at a 5% reduction. That's pretty good. It's hard to really know and gauge that, but it's something that I pulled off, and I'm really proud of that. And I'd like to get that down to 20 someday. Part of that, of course, is diet besides exercise. Exercise isn't going to get all the fat out of you. Diet also has to get the fat out of you. And so, that's what I'm trying to do. And it's not an easy thing. I'm drinking a protein shake every day. Every morning I drink a protein shake. And I believe that makes progress to it but since I'm not working out to utilize the protein now, maybe I shouldn't be using it. I don't know. I got to evaluate that stuff. But that's a harder one to try to figure out. I guess tangibly is food. Something you really got to get a handle on is that. But let's translate to something else. Let's say art. You really, really want to draw some amazing thing. Let's say you want to draw... what's an example? Just something amazing. There's so many different amazing versions of art. I'm getting long here. Whoops. Just something really good. Just go with that. Just something really good. Let's say you want to draw... I'm getting lost here because I can think of a bunch of things, but I'm trying to think of something grand. But I don't have to think of anything too grand. Let's put it one way. Just some, like, you want to just draw like a big, cool looking thing, whatever it is. A ship, a Gundam, a big battle, whatever it is. You want to draw this thing, and you don't think you're there, you can't draw that. And just think about how drawing is. A drawing is done one line at a time, one stroke at a time, one whatever at a time, one usage of the tool at a time. That's how a drawing works. Like, there's some amazing artists who they can make like a whole airship and all this stuff, and it looks really cool, and they can do it in 5 hours. And I go, what? How can you make this amazing thing in 5 hours? And yet they can. And it's like they've been drawing for like 20 years. It's like, okay. They got there one piece of art at a time. They got to this point one piece of art at a time. They drew something, and they drew another thing, and they drew another thing, and they drew another thing, and another thing, and another thing, and another. Just break it down. They did this many lines to make this thing. It's just everything starts with the damn saying is the journey starts with a single step, and it's true. Freaking true. It's just getting to any location takes steps to get there. Maybe a couple thousand, maybe a couple million, maybe 20, I don't know. But it takes steps. And I think that's the thing we get lost on is just we want that big picture, but we don't know how to get there. It's just, well, you take it one step at a time, literally. Or one stroke at a time, one piece at a time, one push-up at a time. You just take it one at a time. And I think this is a big takeaway to think about and remember is everything takes one step at a time. Let's look at, let's make this useful. Let's look at the channel. How can we make the channel more popular? And that is, well, we've done one step pretty well, I think, is just make the actual content. Have actually something there for people to watch. And that is one video at a time. That's that part. And we've been improving our craft at the videos as we've gone. We're good at that part. So then the other one's like, well, what else do we need? Well, we need to be able to reach the audience. That is advertising. And just advertise one step at a time. Just keep advertising and get people's attention. And so what is the steps then? I was like, well, trying to figure out what are different ways to advertise. And so that could be just one post at a time. But actually putting out those posts. And I put out the posts on occasion, every couple of days, but maybe it needs to be daily and things like that. Just find a task and break it down. Let's have a smaller example. Let's a different example from the channel. Let's say something smaller and simpler and easier to do than something as nebulous as trying to make a channel popular. My art. My biggest weakness with Kirby now is not his well, partially his shape because circles are hard. They are. But I've narrowed down how I want to draw his eyes. I've narrowed down how I want to draw his cheeks. I've really narrowed down his mouth. I've narrowed down a lot of those things. I like what I do with those things now. His body could still be better. They could be more circular. But my greatest weakness has always been shading. The lighting of Kirby has always been my weakness. Because I always feel like I'm shading too much or I'm not shading enough. I'm not doing the lighting right. It just never feels right and it really makes me anxious. And so how do I take that one step at a time? Well, one step at a time is draw Kirby and draw him in different lighting and study that and just keep drawing it until something feels satisfying. Or just take pictures of him under light and then try to mimic that and understand that better. Taking the steps to do that instead of what I do right now, which is I just don't shade at all because it really intimidates me. Like I could take this little guy right here. This Kirby. Right there. Take him and just shine a light on him. Get my phone. Where is it? There. Light. Let there be light. So shine a light on him, right? Jeez, how do I do this? So, oh, better look at my hand. I just put light source at different points and study it. Yeah, Kirby's just too bright to show. But just, you can see how the light's affecting my hand better because I'm brown. So, just shining light on something and studying different sources and then trying to just copy that. And just understanding it. And I can only understand so much from looking. I'll understand more from drawing. And that's one step at a time. Is drawing one study of the light at a time until it finally clicks in my head. I think that's a tangible thing I should do. And in the dark, or in darker lighting, because it's daytime right now. Come on, Kirby. Daytime right now. Just, yeah, put Kirby under lamp using this, basically. Different angles. I can't take a picture. I got to get a different source of light and then take pictures and just understand that and try to draw that and have just a better understanding how lighting works. And also, because there's the light coming on there and then there's the shadow, but there's also the light reflecting back off walls and ground and all that. And if I really want to get better at shading, I need to just sit down and do that. That's really what I need to do. And that's really the thing. Whatever goals we have, we should try to break it down and then see what the steps are to get there. Really, that's it. And this vlog got really long. Oh god. Okay, so we'll stop there. It's like at least a minute or 2 minutes of me commenting on the time, which just makes it longer. These vlogs go all over the place because I just let my mind wander. You ever you don't need to wonder why I think I'm really good at improv. It's because my brain can just go somewhere. The only reason why it'll stop, why I won't think of anything, is not because I don't have any ideas, it's because I've got too many and I just need to pick one. That's really what it is. Like when I was going with that art example, I'm like, oh, I got all these different things and thoughts in mind. So like, well, I got to pick one. I should just pick one. And then I just finally picked one. So I was thinking like a Gundam or a ship or a building or the Eiffel Tower, something grand that you want to draw, or just things like that. And there's like 10 different things to pick from in my head. And like, I should just pick one instead of just saying I got nothing. Because that's usually what it is. I got somewhere I can always go. It's just whether it's good or not is the part I have to figure out, or just decide to just go with it. That's probably the funnest thing about improv is the realization of I'm just going to jump in there and something's going to come out and it's going to be good and it's going to be great and I'm just going to roll with it. And that's why I've done so well in improv. And once we're out of this quarantine, I'm going back into improv and I'm gonna get real good at it. I got no doubt in that. I'm gonna get real good. And I'm gonna have a lot of fun with it. And it should hopefully help out the channel as well. Because I'm good on the fly on a stage, I should be good on the fly on this stage as well. That is the hope in theory, at least. So that is the vlog. I keep telling Jinx they're gonna be 10 minutes and then they go really long. Yeah, that's everything. I had fun talking. If you had fun watching and listening, that's what it's all about, isn't it? Having fun. Thanks for coming by, and see you next time.